Hey folks, be right with you. Okay, just hold on there. Got one little technical difficulty going here, and once I fix it, we'll be doing really good here. All right, we got here. Let's see. There we go. I'm streaming to so many places right now that I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay, oh, there we go. We're on Facebook now. Okay, everybody, greetings in the name of Yeshua and this crazy world, this crazy matrix that we live in that is going to get repaired probably in the next 10, 15 years. Okay? Why do I say 10 or 15 years? By the way, I'm getting ahead of myself. I always do that. You folks are witness to that, right? But today is the 14th of October, and we're barreling on through the rest of the year, getting really close to that time when everybody's going to owe a lot of money because of Christmas. Thank God we don't do that no more. Let's see. We started right around 7 o'clock with the technical difficulty. But yeah, everything's going really good so far. So, knock on wood. Yeah, I'm not really superstitious, but when they got this much going, what am I talking about? Okay, right now we're going to YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Trovo, BitChute, Telegram, and Facebook, and Twitch. Okay, so I have to start up these over here, the ones I just mentioned to you, except for Twitch. That starts up automatically. And then I got to go start Telegram manually, and then I got to go up and hit something on Facebook and start that up. And it never, ever stops. And I think I'm going live on Facebook. I really hope I am. Anyway, I can't take the time to worry about it. You know what I mean? I see my picture there. I see it looks like things are going good. So anyway, okay. Usually there's a sign up there that says... But see what I've done. I've got another printer over here, and I've got that over here, and I'm just not used to running something that's not right in front of me. If you know what I mean. Oh, what's this? Okay, yeah, it says it's going out to friends. All right. Well, I'm just gonna have to trust that everything's okay. All right. Let's move on. Actually, if my wife is watching, text me and let me know if we're on Facebook, okay? That would be a wonderful thing if you could do that, sweetheart. I don't know. You're pretty busy in there, so you might not be watching. But I'll keep my phone here and and hope for the best. All right. Let us proceed. All right. What are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about this thing that entered our solar system, and nobody quite knows what it is. It's not acting like a normal comet. And praise the Lord. So everybody's speculating. The scientists don't know what it is, or conspiracy theorists are just going nuts with it. It's everything from an alien invasion ship, mothership, to I don't know. I've yet to hear anybody mention the Anunnaki, but that's the first thought that came across my mind when I was thinking about what people might be thinking. And so I'm sure there's at least one more person out there that's thinking about that maybe this is the Anunnaki returning. So who are the Anunnaki? Well, they were supposedly a race of beings that came to the Earth and through crossbreeding. Yeah, maybe there was crossbreeding with themselves and with early humans. Produced Homo sapiens, which you are now, and that would mean that they would crossbred with Homo Cro-Magnon man. That's right, Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal. So yeah, I don't know. So anyway, it's a crackpot theory. It really is, but it's a scientific and secular way of trying to understand Genesis 6, okay, and all that stuff that happened. For some reason, you can't believe in Yahweh, you can't believe in God, you have to believe in that's aliens doing it, and a big shock someday, when they find out that it was one and the same thing, but it was fallen angels instead of the Anunnaki. Okay, so let's see. This is a whole new world here, folks. Hey, by the way, see this thing right here? This is my new heater. And it's already brought it up a degree in here, which is really neat. I have a candle going underneath this, and that sucker is really hot. And it's radiant heat, so it's we'll see what happens with it. It's my way of trying to keep warm this winter when we're doing radio shows, because it gets cold in this sucker, man. It really does. Okay, so that having been said, okay, let the show begin. All right, seriously. Okay. So the title of tonight's show is Three-Eye Atlas, the visitor from beyond the stars, a journey into the unknown. And how did I get interested in it? How did it all get started? Well, this is a double header. Two things happened to get me interested in this. Well, a few days before September 30th, I don't know exactly what day it was that this happened, but of the year 2025, this year, the War Department Chief, Pete-Hegseth, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, sent a communique to all flag officers, generals and admirals, that is, that he wanted to meet with them on the 30th of September, and that the meeting was mandatory. There was going to be no excuses. Just get here, no matter hook or crook. Now, why would he summon every American general and admiral worldwide to meet in a Marine camp at Quantico, Virginia? Good question, huh? One that to me hasn't adequately been answered so far yet. Anyway, so at about this time, we started to hear about an unusual comet that had entered our solar system. And evidently this is the third recent one that's done this. I have no doubt that these things have entered into our solar system before. And our technology probably wasn't good enough to be able to detect them coming in. But we can now, and so this is the third one. And so 3 is the third one. Let's see. I really I don't know what the I stands for, but anyway, it's a designation, and Atlas is supposedly the place where it was first discovered. And I think it was an astronomy telescope down in southern Chile, of all places. And so anyway, I digress. So this thing was making a parabolic charge for the sun. Now, what does that mean? Well, most comets, they head toward the sun, and they get attracted to the sun. They whip around, and then they head back out, kind of the same way they went. And they also return in a given time, like Halley's Comet. I think it's every 82 years or something like that, which was really not impressive when I saw it. It was, it was nothing to write home about. I guess it was really spectacular back in the early 1900s, but pardon me, folks. Anyway, so we got to these people that are summoned. So what it was all about, okay? Now, let's see. Now, was it sometimes when things like this happen, they happen because we're planning to go to war, and they want everybody to know. And although the channels for communications are pretty technical and pretty high tech, and they're not to be trusted because they are hacked all the time. So if you want to get a communique or a communication to somebody in the military, anyway, you meet with them personally. Oh boy, got a live moth in here. I hate those things. I'll tend to him later. And it ain't going to be pretty for him. Okay, let's see. So, was he worried about this thing that's coming into the solar system? Or are they going to try to make plans to somehow send missiles up and to deflect it one way or another? That's what you think right away when two things are happening at the same time. Okay, well, they got to be related, but not necessarily. We know that when Trump getting in office, there are generals and admirals out there. The majority are constitutionalists, so they're they've taken their oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and they take it seriously. And the majority of them know President Trump and like President Trump, and but some of them don't. And they've been coming out one by one and revealing themselves to be, for lack of a better word, traitors. Okay, and that being the case, they are dismissed or fired or something like that. Although that's going to change pretty soon, I'm pretty sure. And what I mean by that, they're probably going to face military courts and receive the penalty for what they've done. And everybody knows what the penalty for treason is, right? Okay. Let's see. Or was it something else? What would the other thing be? Let's see, an invasion from outer space. That's another thing that ran through a lot of people's minds. Incidentally, as a matter of fact, you know what I was going to do? I was going to put all these pictures, make like a slideshow for the show tonight of this object that's come into into our solar system, and I got about maybe 15 or 20 pictures downloaded. And I said, wait a minute, these pictures are all copyrighted, so I couldn't do it. I, for one, is somebody that kind of respects the copyright of people that work really hard to make songs and take pictures and stuff like that. It's one of the last free things that we have in this life, and so I try to honor that with people, and I hope they try to honor it with me. With my books and stuff, I took it the easy way. I just made them. Yes, they're copyrighted, so you could pass them out to anybody you want to. Just don't change the content of them or the meaning. Okay. So, personally, well, at first I thought that he was calling them in to affirm their oath, and I still think that that's the reason. However, these other two things that I mentioned, they're both possible. Okay, and we're not getting anything from it now. There was a blurb out there that said after the meeting that said that what he told them is that the woke stuff stops, okay, and start getting serious about your job. Wouldn't he say something about fat generals aren't going to do the job or something like that? Meaning that those who just they've got their rank and everything else, and they do nothing. They depend on their their colonels and majors and captains and lieutenants and things to. Those are the land ranks. The Navy ranks are different, but substitute them as you wish. But it's something else with the division that you see in the military, and it's going to get straightened out one way or another. But Trump really walked into quite a mess when he got elected the second time, and if he get things done this term, that'd be wonderful. But I really think that something's going to happen. We're going to have him for another term. Call me crazy, but and if not, we'll definitely have the vice president in there as our president. Okay, so let's let's turn the lights down low. Okay, like we're gonna watch a movie or hear a story, kind of like they did back in the 30s and 40s when they turned the radio on and you listened to I don't know, all different kinds of things, The Shadow and murder mysteries and things like that. Have been on the radio forever, and in television too. But yeah, so let's open up our imaginative caps and see if we can open up this thing and see what it really is. Okay, we are detectives tonight. We are scientific detectives. We're kings and priests detective because we're believers in Yeshua, most of us anyway. And so let's take our credentials and look at the things that are happening today. And by the way, I'm doing this, I'm getting away from that series I was doing just for a couple of shows. I felt that it was time to break off from that for a minute and kind of regather and regroup and everything, because some of that stuff that's coming up is getting pretty deep, and I might be doing one of those a week. instead of 2. Well, we'll see, and you'll be the first to know. So anyway, so I want you to, if you would, I'm supposed to read this in a very kind of cloak and dagger sort of way, kind of like Rod Serling would have done, okay? Imagine, if you will, a dark and silent sky, the kind of night where the stars themselves seem to watch you back. Now picture a visitor from beyond hurtling through our solar systems at speed so fast it defies comprehension. An object, unknown, unannounced, and utterly unlike anything we've ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, meet 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever recorded entering into our solar system neighborhood. Discovered in the skies in Chile in July of 2025, this enigmatic traveler arrived without warning on a path that no planet, no comet, no asteroid could claim as its own. Its orbit is hyperbolic, meaning that it's passing through one time and then gone, never to return again. From the direction of Sagittarius, the Archer, the galactic center behind it is still a bowstring, its cosmic arrow aimed through our celestial neighborhood. 3I Atlas, it appears. 3 Atlas appears. A comet? A probe? A ghostly herald from some faraway system. We are left to wonder. So tonight we're going to explore not only what it is, but what it could be. The science, the anomalies, the speculations, and questions that strike at the very core of our understanding. We are merely observers, or are we witnessing a message, perhaps intentionally derived or delivered from the farthest reaches of the cosmos? Let's look at the science and the strange. Okay, sometimes they both are equal. All right, let's start with what we know. 3I Atlas was first seen by an asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system, which is what Atlas, an acronym for Atlas, or Atlas is an acronym for this. A telescope network scanning the skies for near-Earth objects. Its motion was immediate and alarming. A hyperbolic orbit entering the solar system at roughly 130,000 miles an hour, or over 61 kilometers per second. My goodness. Faster than a speeding bullet. It approached from the direction of Sagittarius, the Archer, moving faster than anything bound by our sun could travel. Already, the first anomalies presented themselves. The object is active, shedding gas and dust, forming a coma reminiscent of a classic comet. But there is something unusual. Most comets only become active near the warmth of the sun. Yet 3I Atlas is shedding water and, in some areas, far more carbon dioxide than expected. Outgassing at this distance almost seems alive. Ooh, that's another possibility, huh? It's a living being. Do you folks remember, if you're old enough to remember Star Trek, the original series? I think it was the second year that it aired. There was an episode where there was this planet killer. It was a long, gigantic tube. It made the Enterprise look like a little speck. And what it would do is it would send out beams and stuff that would destroy planets, and then it would eat up what was left. It was quite an insidious looking thing, and the Enterprise finally destroyed it, but or it made it inert, I should say. So this thing is kind of reminding me of that. Well, it hasn't jumped up any of our planets, and it's not big enough to do that, of course, but there's a lot of similarities between the looks of the two things. And yeah, although we don't know exactly what this thing looks like, because it's veiled in different gases, and in the cloud that usually comes off of things like this when they enter into our solar system and get closer to the sun. But it's it's definitely an anomaly in itself, an anomaly full of anomalies. Okay. Okay. Spectral analysis shows unusual element compositions. Yeah, I would think so. Some early reports even suggest metals in quantities atypical for comets, nickel and iron, though much of this remains unverified. Its brightness and reflective patterns hint at a possibility of hollow interior or internal structure. There's that Star Trek thing again. A natural body? Perhaps, but its behavior is suspiciously deliberate. Okay. Consider its cousins. Oh, you're going to make me read this, huh? Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor in 2017, a cigar-shaped enigma that accelerated without clear cause. And then there was Borisov in 2019, a more familiar icy interloper, but 3I Atlas is larger, more massive, and its chemistry is stranger still. It's rewriting the rules that we thought we understood about interstellar objects. Definitely not from the Oort cloud, folks. This is from a galaxy far, far away. We can actually say that with this one. Now, what's the hypothesis? Let's think about this, okay? So what is it? The scientific explanations range from a conservative to almost fantastical. Of course, right? Nothing can ever be normal in the Matrix, right? Everything's got to be a little weird, a little off, and yeah, okay. So number one, it could be a natural comet, simply a wanderer ejected from another star system with an unusual chemical makeup due to its parent environment. Yeah, it's true, huh? It's kind of like people. You know, we're all people, but when a foreigner comes to our land, we expect them to act like us, but they don't, because they grew up under different conditions and stuff like that. Gradually, they come to live more like we do, but at first it's they're the word foreigner. Their way is foreign to what we're used to, and there are a lot of similarities between that and what we're looking at here. Yes, it could be a comet. It could be from a different solar system or star system. But different stars have different makeups, and they eject different things, and they're made up of different things too. So it's possible that, like the thing said here, you know, it's made up of things that we're not used to, things that are kind of atypical in our neighborhood or our neck of the woods, so to speak. All right, number two, exotic natural relic. What do I mean? A pristine fragment of interstellar material, billions of years old. Boy, here we go. Carrying the chemistry of its distant birthplace. I don't believe in that billions of years stuff, folks. If you don't know that, I'm a young earther, and it says in Scripture that when God created the world and the universe, He created it to look old. Okay? And that explains it for me. That's all I need to know. Okay. Number three, hybrid or modified object. A comet-like body that might harbor artificial structures, instruments, or compartments. Now, we're getting into this alien stuff. We're getting pretty close to it anyway, huh? Oh, well, look at this. Number four, alien craft or probe. Deliberate, intelligent, perhaps carrying its own propulsion or power systems. This thing is acting weird, folks. It can speed up on its own. It can slow down on its own. Remember, it said it came in with 300,000 miles an hour or something like that. And it slowed down quite a bit once it started going through our solar system. And it's just bizarre and weird, folks. And I don't know. I've got my speculations. I'd like to tie it into some of the things I believe. Perhaps we'll do that at the end or toward the end. And I just heard something fly in here. We have a terrible thing with stink bugs here, folks. And I just tell you, it's... I hate them, and I hate them, and I hate them. Now, how do I feel about them? Okay, let's get back to things here. Some scientists, like Avi Loeb, have argued that non-gravitational acceleration, if present, could hint to an artificial origin, a light sail, or an engine we cannot yet comprehend. Critics caution extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but the anomalies remain. Now, what is it? It challenges our assumptions about the universe and about our place within it. Somebody was saying in a video the other day, we've been sending all these messages out to space, not just in Voyager with the little gold discs that they have in there, but also through radio and television for at least 100 years, and maybe they've reached something. But I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I believe we're alone in the universe too. It's I'm weird. According to this world nowadays, I am definitely a weirdo, but that's okay. Sometimes weird is a good thing, especially if it's weird for Jesus or Yeshua. Okay. So, whatever it is, challenges our assumptions are about the universe and our place within it. No, not really. But yeah, I can understand where that comes from. Okay. So, signs in the heavens, the prophetic interlude, okay? We're going to get into a little bit of scripture here. Not much, but scripture and philosophy. Okay, let's see. Throughout history, humanity has looked to the skies for guidance, for signs. Comets, stars, and celestial alignments have long been seen as harbingers of warning, of hope, of change. Okay, let's consider Genesis 1:14. It says, Yahweh, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. Or Joel chapter 2, verses 30 to 31. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth. The sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. Actually, in my version, it says, King James says, the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. There's a big difference there. It's going to be terrible for a lot of people that don't know him, but for those of us that do, that if we're not going to be here, of course, at that time, but there will be people saved during that time, and they will get to witness the second coming. And I don't know. I think that would be a kind of a badge of honor you get to wear for the rest of eternity. Okay. Could Atlas or 3i Atlas be such a sign? Maybe. For the constellation of Sagittarius the Archer, it strikes as a messenger, an arrow through the heavens. It is as if the cosmos itself is reminding us that we are small, finite, and yet observers of events far beyond our comprehension. Wow. Even the book of Revelation speaks of stars falling from heaven, symbols of change, disruption, and revelation. We might wonder, is the object a celestial portent, an echo of prophecy, or simply a stranger passing through? Maybe all the above. Okay. So, in lieu of everything we've just talked about, or I've talked about, there's a warning that comes with this, not to repeat our tragedies of the past, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, some people take things like this the wrong way, and they take them to be portents or signs, and then all of a sudden they go way off into left field, and next thing you know, there's a whole bunch of dead people. Well, let's see here. On the 26th of March 1997, a sleepy community of Rancho Santa Fe, California, of course, California, received the news that a couple, Marshall Applewhite and his lady companion and ministry partner Bonnie Nettles, were found dead with 37 other men and women, the victims of a religious cult that Applewhite and Nettles founded and maintained. They were all dressed the same, folks, exactly the same, and they all had Nike sneakers on. For what reason, I do not know. But they were taught that they were when this comet Hale-Bopp approached closer to the Earth, that a UFO was falling behind it. It was going to come to Earth and take them and other groups around the world with it out of here, and then terrible things were going to happen on Earth. Always terrible things are going to happen on Earth, and it's kind of like a Noah syndrome, a destruction syndrome, that just a few are going to survive and everybody else is going to die. So anyway, let's see. They were victims of a religious cult that Applewhite Nettles founded and maintained. It was an extraterrestrial cult with the vast New Age beliefs in which Applewhite taught that they would be taken up into a UFO that was following in the tail of the comet Hale-Bopp. Applewhite channeled demonic entities that wore the masks of ascended masters, who claimed that if they committed suicide at a certain time, they too would ascend like the masters had. Like the masters had ascended. Deluded, they partook in drinking poison, whereupon they all laid down, waiting for the inevitable. Okay. Sad story, it really is, and it had a lot in common with Jonestown and Jim Jones back in the 70s, which was really tragic. My goodness, how... This is what happens when people don't have discernment, folks. They'll believe anything. What is it? George Carlin said, if you put two things together that have never been put together before, some schmuck will buy it, right? And that's what happens with this. You know, these guys come up with, they list all the problems of the world, you know, food, famine, famine is hunger, disease, and everything else that plagues mankind. And then they come up with a message that, hey, listen to me, and we're going to go someplace where things are better. And of course, it's a human aspiration to want to have things better, to have a holiness on the earth again, and to have plenty of full food and clean water and everything else. That's a human aspiration, and there's nothing wrong with having that. But especially if we know that it's coming in the future and we accept that and realize it may not happen in our lifetime, but we still need to hope and trust that our God and the only God, Yahweh, will take care of us and provide for us until that time comes. Okay. It seems that whenever signs or portents occur in the heavens, there's groups that feel that they are drawn, for whatever reason, to believe some fringe story that sounds too good to be true, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Good phrase. I don't know whoever wrote it, but man, it's hits the nail right on the head. So it sounds too good to be true, causing them to take a perceived shortcut out of the pain and suffering of life here on Earth. Whether it's in the jungles of Guyana, a hilltop in Vietnam, or a home at Rancho Santa Fe, California, the forces of evil seek to steal and kill and destroy. Yeshua said that Satan, it was all about that, to seek, kill, and destroy. Now let's look at this. There was an individual back in, he started, I was listening to him back in the 80s, before he really went off the rails. And he was a part of something called Family Radio, and back then that was a radio station that, it was syndicated, and it was all through the United States, and it was on shortwave too. And so a lot of people got into that. Hey, we're Christians, we have our own radio station now. Hey, this is great. About the same time that the 700 Club and what was the other one with Jim and Tammy Baker? I can't remember that. But there was another network that it still exists, as a matter of fact, and where they have guest talks, speakers on there and stuff. And it's all those things are a little weird. I just, for some reason, I can't watch them. But anyway, this guy's name was Harold Camping, and where the scriptures were concerned, he was pretty wrong on, except he was a date setter. And what did Yeshua say about setting dates? For the hour and time that it's supposed to happen is not yours to know, is what he said. But he even, when he's under, he said, I don't even know it. Only the Father in heaven knows. Okay? And if the Father, if Yahweh the Father thought it necessary to keep that information from Yeshua, then I think it's, we can't really complain because he kept it from his own son, you know? And I don't know why he did that, but it was not necessary for Yeshua to know what was going on, and in that aspect anyway. And he would learn later when he went back to heaven, and I'm confident of that. But let's see. Okay, where was I? Okay, now we were talking about Harold camping. That's right. So anyway, this guy started date setting, and he did it several times, and it never occurred. Of course it didn't, because it's not going to, because Yeshua said that he didn't know, and if I don't know, you guys aren't going to know, right? So so it was in, let's see, I think it was in 2015. Okay, yeah, it was in 2015. He came out with a certain date. Yeah, he came out with a, let's see, referring to Howard Camper, 21st of 2011. That's May 21st, 2011. I don't remember my history quite well here. He made a prediction that Yeshua was coming back, and it didn't pan out. And then in 2015, he did it again. And when it didn't pan out, he came right back and gave another one, another predicted date of return of Yeshua. And the tragic thing about the second date was that this guy was heard all over the world in every language that could possibly have a radio station or a radio. And there was a group of believers in Vietnam that were ardent believers in Yeshua, of course, but they listened to Harold Camping. Sorry, I want to say Howard all the time. Sorry. And when he predicted this day for Yeshua to return, these people decided, hey, we're going to go out on the mountaintop, a hilltop, and we're going to, when he comes, we'll be ready for him, And so they went there. Well, the government of Vietnam decided that, communists do not like believers, okay? They never have and never will. And so what they heard about this, and these people are heading out, and they figured, what a good time to get rid of all these Christians. So while they were on the mountaintop, they went up there and just butchered everybody. I mean, guns and knives and everything else. It was a horrific thing. And you know what? Harold Camping never apologized for being wrong, and not until later. Okay, but a few years after that, not too many, maybe 2 or 3, Harold Camping had a stroke. And guess what part of the body it affected? His vocal cords. He could not speak after that. You don't mess around with Yahweh. If Yahweh can't shut you down by asking you, he's going to shut you down by making you. Okay? Especially something like that. That man was, I think, was it 37 people? Nah, it had to be more than that. That was Heaven's Gate, 37. But anyway, yeah, he was responsible for them dying. And never apologizing? What's with that? I just don't get that, Alright, where are we at here? Oh, we've been on for, come on, we've been on for 39 minutes? Yeah, I guess. This is going way too fast. I do have some videos I want us to watch, okay? Why don't we, yeah, let's take a little break here and watch a couple of videos anyway. And then we can resume the rest of everything, and we go from there. Okay. So the first video I want us to watch is called "Something Weird Is Happening," and it's going to talk about this comet and throw some theories out there and stuff. And then the next one we're going to watch is do you remember Stephen Hawking? He was a scientist. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't talk, and so he had this mechanism that every time he thought something, it would speak it. And it would come up on a keyboard that he had on, or not keyboard, a monitor that he had on his wheelchair. Once claimed to be one of the smartest men in the world. After a while, became very leery of this whole alien stuff, and he said, "You know what? You're sending all these invitations out to things in space, and you don't know them. You don't know what they're like, but you're asking them to come. And what if they're not nice people? What if they're not nice beings?" And he was telling him, you're stupid. Why don't you think about this before you do it? Because you may get something that you're not totally didn't expect, and it's going to turn around and bite you and humanity in the rear end. And of course, nobody listens because they all think, oh no, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. And those are the ones that usually survive when everybody else dies too, right? Okay, so let's look at this first video and try to get an idea of what it's trying to convey to us. Okay.
There is a mystery unfolding in outer space as we speak. We have a name for this mystery. We call it 3I Atlas, but that doesn't mean we actually know what it is or what it's doing. 3I Atlas is weird. It looks weird, it moves weird, it's made of weird stuff, and for all of the time that we've spent studying this object, there is a new indication that it might have actually been studying us for even longer. Let's begin with some recent images of 3I Atlas that were captured by astrophotographers in the remote desert of Namibia on the southern tip of Africa. This is already an incredibly dark place on Earth, but the photographers were able to take advantage of a lunar eclipse where the shadow of the Earth blocked out any sunlight from reflecting off the moon, essentially creating the darkest sky possible and therefore the clearest view into outer space. During this time, they could have pointed their cameras at anything, but they chose to locate 3I Atlas in their viewfinder, and what they saw was shocking. The object was glowing bright green in the night sky. Now, based on what we know about 3I Atlas, it should not be turning green, or at least there is no natural explanation right now for it to be green. You see, the prevailing theory among scientists and astronomers is that 3I Atlas is an interstellar comet, meaning it's generally the same as all of the other comets we see flying around. It has a big, bright, fuzzy halo of gas and dust around it, that's the coma, and it also has a big fan-shaped tail as well. But this comet is also different, because this one came from a totally different star system in some far-off place in the galaxy. So we are expecting it to be a little weird. But the problem with 3I Atlas is that it keeps doing things that just don't make sense. For example, it's not actually unusual for a comet to turn green. And because this is pretty normal, we know a lot about the chemical process that creates the green color. It happens when carbon molecules in the coma are exposed to ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Specifically, this happens to diatomic carbon, or C2, which is just two carbon atoms that are bonded to each other. So if 3I Atlas were a normal comet, it would have a lot of these carbon structures around its surface, and it would turn green in the sunlight. But we know from observations that were made over the summer using pretty much every major telescope in existence that 3I Atlas is actually deficient in these carbon chain molecules. It doesn't have any C2, and yet it is clearly glowing green. So why is that happening? We don't know. Aliens? Yeah, maybe they just like green lights. Now, we also know that the coma surrounding 3I Atlas is filled with CO2, which is carbon bonded to oxygen atoms, and that is a totally different thing from C2. It does make the object incredibly bright, but that would not turn it green. And the presence of that much CO2 alone is also pretty strange because it vastly outweighs the amount of H2O, or water vapor, in the coma, which is basically the opposite of an average comet because they typically have a lot more water than CO2. Except that's not the only weird thing in the coma of 3I Atlas because it's also full of metal, particularly nickel. And again, this is not exactly unusual for a comet, but it is weird for 3I Atlas to be doing it right now. A lot of comets have metal in their composition, and often that metal will end up evaporating out into the coma. But this only ever happens when the comet gets incredibly close to the sun, where there's enough heat to vaporize metal. 3I Atlas is not close to the sun, and the presence of nickel was first detected when it was still out in between Mars and Jupiter. So there's no reasonable explanation as to why it's releasing a bunch of metal, specifically nickel, unless you were to entertain the theory that 3I Atlas is an alien spacecraft, in which case, rocket engines are typically made from metal alloys that are high in nickel content, and when you burn those engines, a lot of nickel tends to end up in the exhaust gas, a lot of CO2 as well. Of course, this probably isn't aliens, but there's also something weird happening with the way that 3I Atlas is moving through the solar system. Probably unrelated to rocket engines that may or may not exist, but what's interesting is the trajectory and velocity of 3I Atlas has remained almost perfectly consistent for the entire time that we've been observing it. Since the object was first spotted in early May up until right now in October, it has not sped up, slowed down, or changed direction by any meaningful amount. That might not sound weird, but if this were a comet, then it should be moving around a lot more. You see, comets heat up as they approach the sun, which causes them to melt, or technically to sublimate, which is what happens when a solid transitions directly into a gas. And the release of that gas tends to push the comet around in space, like a thruster. So a typical comet will change velocity and direction depending on what side is being exposed to the sun. We call that movement non-gravitational acceleration, or NGA, and we typically measure the average distance of variation that occurs in one day. As we've seen, 3I Atlas has been doing a lot of sublimating already, including a mini tail that formed in the direction of the sun, which has now begun to evolve into a longer tail that is facing away from the sun. And yet, on a daily basis, the velocity and trajectory of 3I Atlas has only fluctuated by about 1.5 kilometers of NGA per day.
Oh, wow.
Let's compare that with 2I Borisov, the most normal of the interstellar trio. It was measured to fluctuate over 100 kilometers per day, about 100 times more movement on average than Atlas. Now, one potential explanation would be that Atlas is bigger and therefore harder to move. Makes sense. But we can bring in another point of comparison. This is Hale-Bopp. It's one of the biggest comets we've ever discovered in our solar system, at least as big as 3I Atlas, if not much bigger. We saw Hale-Bopp move around by an average of over 10 kilometers of NGA per day, again, around 10 times more than Atlas. And Oumuamua blows them all away. At some points, it was changing direction by over 1,000 kilometers per day. So even when compared to other interstellar objects, 3I Atlas is moving in a very strange way. It's holding such an unusually steady course that you could almost say it's intentional, as if it's being guided through the solar system. Now, there's probably a natural explanation for that, but let's just say that if 3I Atlas is a ship that is being steered, then not only can it hold a course, but it could, theoretically, also change course whenever it wants. Right now, we expect that 3I Atlas will end up being on the opposite side of the sun from the Earth as it passes through the inner solar system, so we won't have an opportunity to see it up close, or it won't have a chance to see us, unless somehow 3I Atlas is able to slow itself down as it passes by the sun and we find it waiting for us on the other side. Here's a crazy theory for you that might actually hold some water. Have you ever heard of the WOW signal? It was discovered in 1977 by astronomers at Ohio State University who were using something called the Big Ear Radio Telescope. It's like a big ear that listens for weird stuff in space. And on this one day, it found something so weird that the person reading the data just wrote the word "wow" on the paper printout. Hence the name. What shocked them so much was this incredibly powerful narrowband radio signal that lasted for 72 seconds and originated from a point deep in outer space. We know that it didn't come from any of our technology. It didn't come from the sun or any planet in our solar system. We only know that it came from the general direction of the constellation Sagittarius. Now, the first thing that stands out about the WOW signal is the incredible amount of energy it would have required to blast out a narrowband radio frequency across interstellar space. If it was made by aliens, then they would have to be a civilization so advanced that they could harness the energy of a star. Or if it was a natural phenomenon, then it must have been created by some kind of activity inside a star. Now, the second important thing about the WOW signal has to do with hydrogen, which is the most abundant atom in the known universe. And there's this thing called the hydrogen line. It's a radio frequency that gets created by hydrogen atoms. That's a big simplification, but all you need to know is that the frequency of the hydrogen line is 1420 megahertz. And the frequency of the WOW signal, you guessed it, 1420 megahertz. So if you were trying to send a very simple message into the galaxy in a way that any other civilization with advanced knowledge of science would recognize, that's probably how you would do it. And in the 5 decades since then, we have never detected another radio signal that has looked anything like that. Anyway, the reason why this is interesting is because astronomers have been able to reverse engineer the trajectory of 3I Atlas, and we're pretty sure that it also comes from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, the same general direction of the WOW signal. That is a pretty big coincidence, and it's got some people thinking that maybe the real origin of the WOW signal wasn't some distant star, but it might have come from our new visitor, 3I Atlas, which in the year 1977 would have been on the outer edge of our solar system, far beyond the orbit of Pluto. Maybe it just wanted to give us a heads up that it was on the way. Of course, that is just a theory, one that hasn't been proven to be true and probably never will be, but it also hasn't been proven to be false either. And that's probably the most important thing to keep in mind as we learn more about 3I Atlas. Objects like this one demand that we keep an open mind to the endless possibilities of the universe. The truth is out there, and it's headed in our direction.
Wow, that's pretty interesting, man. The WOW signal. I remember when I first read about that or heard about it way back in the 70s, and it was dubious back then. It still is a little to me now. It's I don't know. I don't understand. I don't pretend to understand all those signals that are sent out in space, and how do they determine what something is manufactured rather than natural noise. I know that they had a problem with what do you call it? Quasars and stuff like that that emit signals out every once in a while, and for the longest time thought that maybe they were receiving signals from a civilization, but as it turned out, it was a star that had become a quasar. So anyway, yeah, I thought that was pretty dang interesting. Yeah, notice how he kind of went toward the extraterrestrial thing. You know, that's a ship and stuff, and hey, it might pretty well be, but it would hold some implications that we'll talk about afterwards, okay? Because I've got a theory about this stuff, and you know, I'm no Einstein, but when it comes to scripture, I know quite a bit, and I've been not invented, but discovered some stuff that I just want to share with you, okay? All right, so let's go with Hawking's warning, okay? And it's in here somewhere. I just don't remember where in the video it is, but it's the video itself is 12 minutes long, so it's not horribly wrong. And the one after it is 18 minutes, so it'll take up a majority of our time, which is good. Okay, so let's look at Hawking's warning. It's a lot more comprised to it than that, but that's the main gist of it. Okay, here we go.
Astronomers are trying to gather information about a comet passing Earth. They figured out this object, now named 3I Atlas, was an interstellar visitor.
On June 30th, just one night before 3I/ATLAS was first detected, a mysterious signal erupted, one no scientist can explain. At exactly 2:13 a.m. UTC, a senior astronomer at the Mauna Kea Observatory began receiving a series of pulses on the hydrogen line frequency, 1,420 megahertz, the precise frequency SETI researchers use to hunt for alien signals. But this wasn't random static. The pulses came in perfect groups of 3, each separated by exactly 47 seconds, 6 flawless repetitions before cutting off. By dawn, the largest interstellar object ever, 3I/ATLAS, had been spotted, emerging from the exact region of space where the strange signal had originated less than 24 hours earlier. Looking back at the signal logs, the astronomer noticed something even stranger. The pulse groups from the signals were spaced almost exactly to match Earth's rotation. That meant whoever sent them had calculated precisely where our planet would be, and when, to deliver the message at the perfect moment. Historical records revealed that we had sent a directed transmission toward that same sector of the sky over 2 decades ago. And now, from that exact direction, the largest interstellar object ever detected had entered our solar system. When 3I/ATLAS was first spotted in July 2025, NASA initially dismissed it as just another comet. But Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, after analyzing its precise orbit, its unusual planetary flybys, and its imminent disappearance behind the sun, combined with NASA's own trajectory data, concluded there is now a 99% chance it's a spacecraft in disguise. Loeb warns, this is exactly why NASA is pushing the SHIELD 3 program, aimed at creating a rapid response intercept mission. Now, in this video, we will break down Avi Loeb's research paper, show the title Like Before video, on how Atlas is not a rock, but an intelligent extraterrestrial spacecraft, and how it has pinpointed our location by secretly tracing decades of our radio signals and deep space messages. Also, the next threatening move it's likely to make, show the whole PDF scroll the way it resembles the whole paper. The first sign is its sheer size. Early estimates suggested it could be as large as 20 kilometers across, roughly the size of Manhattan, though Loeb believes the solid body might be smaller, hidden beneath a massive halo of dust. Yet even if it's only a fraction of that size, it's still enormous for an interstellar visitor. Based on our surveys of the sky, an object this big should only pass through our solar system once every 10,000 years. That immediately raised the question, why now? And why this one? Then came the coma and tail problem. In a typical comet, solar heating releases gas, and that gas carries dust outward, forming the coma and trailing tail. Without gas, there should be no dust. Yet deep Hubble images reveal that 3I/ATLAS has a bright structured coma, and, strangely, the glow is in front of it, not behind. Some particles even appear to be streaming forward, against the push of solar radiation. Its velocity added to the mystery. 3I/ATLAS is racing through space at 245,000 kilometers per hour, about 152,000 miles per hour. At that speed, it could cross the entire United States in under 2 minutes. No natural comet of its size is known to travel that fast without some kind of external push. Its trajectory deepened the puzzle. Rather than plunging in from a random angle, it's moving in near-perfect alignment with the flat orbital plane of our planets. Along the way, it will pass unusually close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, using their gravity in a series of optimal slingshot maneuvers, the same method space agencies deliberately plan for their own probes. Loeb calculates the odds of a natural object hitting this exact sequence by chance at just 1 in 20,000. The timing seems equally deliberate. Its closest approach to the Sun will occur when Earth is on the opposite side, meaning that for several weeks in late October 2025, it will be hidden in the Sun's glare. During that time, we will have no way to see it. No radar contact, no optical tracking. For a natural object, this could be coincidence. But for something under intelligent control, it would be the perfect moment to make a course change, unseen. This behavior doesn't match any known natural process. In fact, the nucleus, the solid core, is smaller than expected for such brightness, while the coma is brighter than models predict. That mismatch suggests the light may not be entirely from the sun at all. It could be reflections from an unusually smooth or engineered surface. Even its origin is suspicious. It is arriving from the direction of the Milky Way's dense central region, yet its final approach vector came through a relatively empty patch of sky, making detection far more difficult. We only spotted it thanks to a narrow observation window in July. Had it arrived just a few months earlier or later, we might never have seen it. Stephen Hawking warned against broadcasting our presence to the cosmos. His concern was straightforward. Any civilization capable of reaching us would almost certainly have technology far beyond our own. They might see us not as equals, but as a potential threat, a young species advancing quickly toward interplanetary capability. In the dark forest view of the universe, advanced civilizations stay silent to avoid drawing predators. If they detect a noisy newcomer, they may choose to act before that newcomer becomes too powerful. Since the intentions of any newly contacted civilization can never be known, it's safest to shoot first and ask questions later, in order to prevent the potential extinction of one's own species. The analogy is chilling. The universe is like a dark forest full of hunters. Everyone stays quiet because if you make a sound, you risk being found and eliminated. Not out of malice, but out of survival. If 3I/ATLAS is truly alien technology, it could mean we've already broken the one rule: stay silent. For more than a century, we've been sending signals into space, and most people have no idea just how much those signals reveal. In 1974, the famous Arecibo message beamed out details of who we are, the structure of our DNA, our place in the solar system, and even our population count, aimed at a star cluster 25,000 light-years away. Later came transmissions like Cosmic Call and Hello from Earth, each packed with more information about our species. To the public, these seemed like harmless gestures of curiosity, but any advanced civilization with a sensitive enough receiver could not only decode them, they could use the timing and frequency of those signals to pinpoint our exact location in the galaxy. And it doesn't stop there. Every day, our radio and TV broadcasts leak into space, spilling out more clues than most people realize. To an advanced listener, those signals are a goldmine. They could reveal the gases in our atmosphere, the extent of our pollution, the exact rhythm of Earth's rotation, its size, and even the sophistication and limits of our technology. In short, we haven't just told the universe where we live. We've handed over a blueprint of our world. Now, why is a comet the perfect camouflage? Loeb has spent years urging scientists to keep an open mind about the possibility of interstellar technology visiting our solar system. His thinking is straightforward. If we humans have sent probes like Voyager and Pioneer out of the solar system, there is no reason to assume no one else has done the same. In fact, with billions of years more time to develop technology, another civilization could easily send highly advanced probes across the galaxy. One way to do this, and remain completely undetected, would be to disguise a craft as a comet. From a scientific perspective, this is both practical and clever. After all, a comet is essentially a rocky core wrapped in volatile ices. As it nears the sun, those ices vaporize, creating a bright coma and tail that hide the solid object within. Telescopes cannot penetrate this haze in any real detail. By encasing a spacecraft in a thick shell of ice and dust, you could shield it from cosmic radiation, protect it from micrometeoroids, and, most importantly, make it look exactly like a natural comet. Any heat from internal systems would be masked by the chaotic thermal signature of the venting gases. Even radar would be scattered by the rough, porous surface. To any observer, it would be indistinguishable from the real thing. This concept, an ice-clad probe, is not science fiction. NASA has actually studied ice shielding for human missions beyond Earth, both for radiation protection and as a potential in-flight resource. The engineering is sound. The advantage for a covert mission is obvious. No one questions the presence of a comet in a planetary system. It's the perfect camouflage. And so, the question becomes, is 3I/ATLAS just an icy interstellar relic? Or is it an engineered vehicle traveling under a comet skies? Loeb's team lays out the probabilities. A mere 0.2% chance of its orbital plane alignment happening randomly, a 0.005% chance of the planetary flybys occurring by coincidence, and a conveniently timed sun-hidden period at perihelion. Each factor on its own might be dismissed as luck. Together, they hint at something far more deliberate, the possibility that the trajectory was designed. Right now, 3I/ATLAS is near Jupiter, still holding to its predicted path. But if it uses the sun's blinding glare to alter course, we won't know until it emerges weeks later. By then, its new trajectory could place it much closer, perhaps directly on approach. And if it hits Earth at such speed, the consequences would be unimaginable. The impact of a 12-mile-wide object would unleash energy millions of times greater than the most powerful nuclear bomb ever detonated. Oceans would surge into tsunamis taller than skyscrapers. The skies would ignite with global firestorms. Sunlight would vanish behind a shroud of dust for years. Agriculture would collapse. Species, including ours, could disappear entirely. And that's if it were nothing more than a natural rock. If it's an armed craft, the outcome is beyond anything we can imagine. Then there's the most ambitious idea currently on the table, using NASA's Juno spacecraft, now orbiting Jupiter, to stage a flyby of 3I Atlas in early 2026. The plan, proposed by Avi Loeb and collaborators, is daring. It would require Juno to slingshot around Jupiter for a massive boost, the kind of maneuver that could bring it within range of the object as it leaves the inner solar system. On paper, the math works. In reality, Juno's main engine is damaged, and its remaining fuel might not be enough for such a precision strike. Some in the community call it a brilliant use of existing hardware. Others call it reckless fantasy. But all agree on one point. If it could be done, it would give us our first ever close-up view of an interstellar visitor. And there are whispers of another program from NASA, informally called SHIELD 3, aimed at developing a rapid response intercept mission. The concept, as described by those familiar with the planning, would involve modifying an existing high-speed spacecraft design and equipping it to either study the object up close or, if necessary, attempt to disable it. A nuclear payload has even been mentioned. However, the technical challenges are enormous. Matching velocity with an object moving this fast is far beyond our standard chemical rockets. To have any hope of intercepting it, the mission would need to launch early and aim to meet the object far from Earth. So, do you still think it's just a comet? Or is it an alien craft in disguise? An actual ET visitor hiding in plain sight? Comment below, and if you want to follow every update of this comet, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is one story you won't want to miss.
Hey, folks. Pretty interesting, huh? Now, he's really leaning towards the extraterrestrial theory about this thing. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of evidence that convinces me that that might be what it is. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So, let's... pardon me. All right. So, let's look beyond the veil and the Matrix and the hologram. Okay, and the hologram. Now, let's venture beyond the science and scripture into the realm of philosophy and speculation. my forte. Okay, suppose our universe is not as it seems. Suppose reality is a vast simulation, a holographic projection, a matrix. Okay. In that context, anomalies like 3i Atlas may be more than mere objects. Could it be a coded signal, a test, a message, an inserted variable? Okay. If we are living in a matrix of sorts, hey, look at that, then this interstellar visitor might represent a glitch, a probe, or an intentional event designed to provoke awareness. Man, that is so close to, I mean, it parallels with what I'm thinking, I'd have thought for quite a while, except I branch out a little farther than that. Hold on, folks, okay, there we go. All right, let's see. It's seemingly deliberate behavior, non-gravitational acceleration, the first thing, unusual composition, second thing, structural hints, could be the simulation itself showing us its hand. Or perhaps it's a reminder that we are part of a vast conscious universe, New Age talk, far more intricate than our senses alone perceive. It would make more sense to me that it's part of a matrix, part of the written code that's written in the code that's written into the matrix to make the matrix the matrix. Since Yahweh's the one that wrote that code, and it's been effective since we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, or Adam and Eve did anyway. In effect, we did. Then it stands to reason that the author can insert or remove things anytime he wants to, and can change things anytime he wants to. It always amazed me that Yahweh's in the scripture talks about laying the universe out as a as a tent is one of the things it says, but it also says, the scripture says that he spread the fabric of the universe out there. And interestingly enough, and I know I've said this before, but just in case you've never heard me say it, I want you to be privileged to have heard me say it. This is an area where science and philosophy and Christian dogma, where we all agree. Science says that they call it space-time. They call it the fabric of time and space. Boy, you can't get more similar to the fabric that Yahweh spread out. It's you got to wonder, because when you see fabric, my wife likes to knit, she likes to sew and stuff like that. But if you could get down like with a microscope or something where you can see the fine intricacies of the fabric, you notice that fabric itself is basically it's matter, but it's got holes in it all over the place. There's nothing like a a perfect piece of fabric. Okay, so when we look at the fabric of time and space, I'm just going to throw something at you and just think about it. And we see stars and we see galaxies and see all this stuff that's out there. Could it be that we're just looking at the fabric and we're looking at the holes that are in the fabric between the different threads going, back and forth and everything else? And just something to think about, And if it's true, what's behind it? Because remember, this universe is separate from where Yahweh lives. He lives outside of the universe. He's not part of the creation. He's the creator. And so I don't know. I don't want to go any further on that because we could take off on that and go way outside. Okay. All right. So let's see. I'm trying to remember where we were. It's all right. So we read that. All right. Okay. So let's see. The reckoning of wonder. Let's just look at things. Okay. Let's re-examine, so to speak. So what can we make of it? Science gives us facts, trajectory, speed, chemical composition. Faith offers symbolism and prophecy, signs in the heavens, messengers from the divine. Philosophy challenges our assumptions, reality, simulation, and limits of perception. 3i Atlas reminds us that the universe is stranger than we imagine. Ah, boy. Okay. It beckons curiosity, awe, and humility. It may be natural or artificial, or prophetic, or simply a mystery. Things have just started to get weird. Okay, so to speak. Tonight we are witnesses, observers of a cosmic visitor passing once through our solar system, leaving questions in its wake and perhaps answers that we are not ready to comprehend. Okay, let's say this thing is an extraterrestrial visitor. Well, let's lay let's lay it on the line here. I don't believe that there's extraterrestrial brothers living out in space. I do believe that that the characters known as fallen angels or the sons of God, you could say them, or that there are many of them, and perhaps millions or even billions. I don't know. In that the sons of God, where am I trying to go here? Okay, so they, of course, they're anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-Mashiach, and being that, they're going to do everything they can to deceive you and me, or try to. And they don't like it when I get on and tell you this stuff, and they don't like it when you think about it on your own, and because we're dangerous to them. We really are. We are dangerous to the fallen angels and the demons, and they will do anything they can to try to shut us up. Thank you that Yahweh said that no weapon formed against us will prosper, and that He reminds us time and time again that He's standing with us, sitting with us, and right next to us as the enemy tries to sling these arrows towards us, and Yeshua has us hold our swords up and deflect them left and right, and then finally he runs out of arrows and goes and bothers somebody else, which isn't good for that other person, but at least they leave us alone for a while, right? So anyway, being that there's no extraterrestrial beings, so to speak, these things are disguising themselves as what better way to fool a society that's technological, that is interested in space travel and journey to the stars. What better way to fool them and deceive them than to come as messengers, or isn't it interesting? Angel means messenger. Of deceit, messengers of deceit, in order to pull us away from our focus on Yahweh, on the things that really matter, and plunge us into this surrealistic, deeper into the Matrix. Let's put it that way. So I am convinced that this is what the whole UFO phenomena is. folks, go to my website, delusionresistance.org, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see a whole bunch of columns, and you're going to see a book there called Unholy Communion. It's free. It's a PDF. Download it. Read it when at your time, at your leisure. As time you have time to read it, because it's going to explain what these things are and why they're doing what they're doing, and ultimately it's to destroy mankind, and it's to set up the earth as a kingdom for the evil ones, for the devil and his angels, and but the devil and his angels, they're deluded. They're insane because they think that they can. The creation thinks that it can destroy the creator, which is stupid. I remember watching Snoopy, and the guy would draw out different things that Snoopy was going to do, and then Snoopy did it. Well, it'd be like Snoopy trying to destroy Charles Schultz, because he didn't like Charles Schultz. He didn't like the way he's being characterized and stuff. So he's going to rise up. Well, there's no way he can do it, right? He's an animation. He's on a page. Satan is a created being. He's not eternal, and he's a usurper, and he's out there to steal, kill, and destroy, like we said earlier. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner that he's easier to deal with, or easier to deal against, maybe is a better way to put it. But so this phenomena, if you've read into Enoch, first Enoch, where it talks about the incursion of the fallen angels, and it talks about the progeny that came with their mixing with human women, the Nephilim that came. If you're versed in all that, then you understand everything that's happening today. Okay, it's just another attempt to destroy humanity, to give Yahweh a black eye, and to try to take over the earth. Okay, maybe for a short while it'll happen, but very, very short while, and then Yeshua is going to come back and put an end to it. So when if you listen to the message of these beings when they talk, a lot of times most of the time they're so anti-Christ, it's not funny. They're always their message is always against what Yahweh or Yeshua has said. They're pick your subject, wherever they're concerned. They're in opposition, and they're diametrically opposed to what Yeshua and Yahweh are all about. So that's all really I need to say. But if you get my book, download it and read it, and you'll understand maybe a lot more than you understand now. Now, it's a long book, and it's people have called it too long. Okay, but it's got a lot of testimonies of people who have overcome the alien abduction, and but it'll explain to you who they are, why they're not beings from other planets, and it's their compelling evidence too. And so anyway, check it out. I think you'll really get a lot out of it, and it'll help you explain in your own timing what it would take me a long time to explain. I feel like I've kind of done you an injustice, because I've given you a little bit and not everything, and then I don't want you to leave confused or feel like you were ripped off, okay, today. But if you download the book, check it out, and there are a lot of books there too, by the way. All of Jonathan Gray's books are there. The archaeologist that found weird stuff and weird places. He gave me permission to post it all. He knew time was getting short, and whether he thought for himself or for mankind, he wanted his books out there so that anybody could read them. And so I turned them into, well, they were already PDFs, and I turned them, put them on my website, so you could check those all out too. There's some really neat stuff in his books, Dead Men's Secrets, and more Dead Men's Secrets. So, okay, I've really wasted too much time talking about this stuff. So, okay, let's see. Now, as it departs, we're left to wonder, and in that wonder, perhaps the greatest message is this: to look up, to question, to imagine, and to remember that the universe is alive, in a way, okay? The Matrix is alive, sure it is, but it's a false life, a false identity, so to speak. Let's see. Waiting for those who dare to watch. Okay? Yeshua always said, look up. Look up. When you see these things happening, look up because your redemption draws nigh. What are you supposed to look up at? Him returning. Him coming back. That's our hope. That's our desire. Our aspiration is to want Yeshua to come back. Not now. Well, now be good. But like I say, I want him to come back yesterday. Not tomorrow. Yesterday. Make it so that he came back yesterday, and then somehow in the Matrix we missed it. And then anyway, we need him really bad here because the enemy is winning, and he will for a short while. That's guaranteed. But he wins battles. He doesn't win the war. Okay. So let's see, where are we here? Okay. Well, that kind of finishes up. Kind of sad that it finishes it up. But well, let's just go into let's summarize. Well, you know what? Let's watch that last video. How's that sound? And then we'll summarize, okay? And then you can go do what you want to do, and I'm going to get out of here and probably go rest. Okay, so let me do this and then go here. Military emergency called. Okay, let's see. That sounds pretty...
the Pentagon has summoned U.S. military leaders to Virginia, with insiders linking the move to 3I Atlas.
Deep space observatories detected something unprecedented racing toward our solar system at impossible speeds. Now, the Secretary of War, Pete-Hegseth, has declared an emergency meeting that will take place on September 30th at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Hundreds of senior officers have been ordered to attend, including every general and admiral across the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and even the Space Force. Reports suggest nearly 800 participants will be present, making this one of the largest gatherings of military leadership in U.S. history. The lack of answers has fueled speculation, especially as monitoring stations tracking 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object that has already defied scientific explanation, recently experienced sudden disruptions. Many now believe this meeting isn't just routine strategy. It could be a direct response to 3I Atlas and what it might mean for national security. What exactly did the military detect, and why are they preparing as if this isn't just science, but survival? A quiet deployment. In late night hours when the public slept, something unusual stirred in naval bases, from Norfolk to Pearl Harbor. Orders were transmitted under secure channels. Redeploy select fleets, prepare sonar arrays, and activate satellite-linked defense networks. Officially, no announcements were made. Yet satellite hobbyists and military bloggers noticed ship movements that didn't match any scheduled exercises. The vessels being moved weren't for routine patrol. They were Aegis-equipped destroyers, ballistic missile defense cruisers, and even submarines outfitted for deep-sea surveillance. The target of these sudden maneuvers, an object millions of miles away, 3I Atlas. At first, this didn't make sense to the public. Why would the Navy, not NASA, lead the charge in responding to a space object? But insiders leaked a chilling reason. Data from James Webb and classified military telescopes suggested Atlas wasn't behaving like a comet. Its emissions, its trajectory shifts, even its strange metallic readings hinted at something more deliberate. And if there was even a 1% chance this was control, military preparedness became priority one. Reports began surfacing online of emergency briefings inside NORAD and sealed meetings between the Navy and Space Command. Some claimed a contact protocol was being rehearsed, one that merged naval operations with classified aerospace directives, a protocol written for events that governments always dismissed as conspiracy. Until now, the most unsettling detail was the Navy's choice to deploy into regions not typically tied to space observation, but to undersea monitoring. Hydroacoustic stations that once tracked Soviet submarines were suddenly recalibrated. Why? Some analysts whispered of a possibility that no one dared say too loudly. If 3I Atlas was more than debris, then it might not only move across the skies, it might interact with Earth's oceans. This theory sounded outrageous, but it explained the urgency. Ships weren't just repositioning, they were forming grids, silent nets in the water, waiting for something the public was never warned about. But if the Navy was preparing for contact, what exactly were they preparing to face? The hidden warnings. While the Navy scrambled in silence, scientists inside NASA were already raising alarms behind closed doors. According to leaked memos, internal reports described 3I Atlas as energetically anomalous and structurally inconsistent with natural bodies. These weren't the words of conspiracy theorists. They came from engineers tasked with parsing James Webb data. What NASA discovered first was size. Public statements downplayed Atlas as a comet roughly a kilometer wide, but the real numbers suggested something closer to 30 to 50 kilometers across. That scale meant devastation if it struck Earth, far worse than the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaur. Yet the official press releases stayed calm, vague, and sanitized. Then came the second warning, the emission. Spectrographic data hinted at repeating infrared pulses, structured like a signal. At first, analysts chalked it up to coincidence, but as more telescopes confirmed the pattern, the anomaly became undeniable. This wasn't random noise, it was rhythm, a rhythm that suggested communication. Still, NASA's public line remained one of dismissal. They called the patterns measurement artifacts and the plume an unusual but natural jet. But internally, some researchers began calling the readings a directed emission source. One whistleblower even claimed that the signal contained prime number interval, the classic hypothetical marker of intelligent origin. When those findings reached military channels, it was no longer a scientific puzzle. It became a national security threat. NASA was ordered into silence. Webb data was locked down. Independent astronomers found their access throttled. Forums filled with speculation that the government wasn't just hiding what Atlas was, it was hiding what it might be doing. The conspiracy grew sharper when reports emerged that Elon Musk had been briefed privately. SpaceX, with its Starlink network, allegedly detected interference patterns during Atlas's approach. Musk cryptically tweeted and deleted a post, "It's bigger than they're telling you." But if size and signals weren't the only secrets, then what was NASA truly afraid of revealing? Political firestorm and public reaction. When whispers of 3I Atlas leaked beyond the scientific community, Washington couldn't keep the lid on any longer. Lawmakers began receiving classified briefing, and soon after, the political storm ignited. Senators demanded transparency. Was this simply a strange comet, or was something more deliberate entering our solar system? The White House issued carefully worded statements. The situation is under review. There is no threat to the public, but behind the scenes, panic was brewing. Former President Donald Trump jumped into the conversation, calling Atlas a cover-up bigger than Roswell and accusing NASA of withholding the truth. Elon Musk, never shy with speculation, added fuel by suggesting on X, formerly Twitter, that Atlas's trajectory adjustments were technologically suggestive. The post vanished within hours, but screenshots spread across the globe. Meanwhile, conspiracy forums lit up with theory that Atlas was an alien probe, that it was a disguised weapon, even that it was a harbinger of biblical prophecy. YouTube live streams racked up millions of views overnight, featuring amateur astronomers pointing shaky telescopes at the sky, desperate to glimpse what governments seemed so eager to hide. Public fear wasn't limited to the online world. In coastal towns where Navy ships had quietly redeployed, residents noticed the unusual activity. Families living near bases in Virginia and California reported unexplained night drill, booming sounds offshore, and entire harbors sealed without explanation. Rumors swirled that Atlas wasn't just being tracked from the sky, it was being prepared for from the sea. Even mainstream outlets couldn't resist the story. CNN described Atlas as the most unusual interstellar visitor ever detected. Fox News went further, citing unnamed Pentagon sources who called the object strategically concerning. Overnight, the debate moved from fringe chatter to the center of global politics. But the most unsettling reaction wasn't public, it came from within. Multiple insiders claimed classified briefings warned of a potential maneuver during Atlas's solar conjunction. The phrase repeated again and again, not a rock, not random. If Atlas could change course, then the panic in Washington wasn't misplaced. And just as the political noise reached fever pitch, the Navy's emergency response escalated. But what exactly were they preparing to intercept? The Navy's secret protocols activated. By late summer, the Navy was no longer hiding its urgency. Fleets were pulled into formation, radar networks stretched to maximum range, and classified undersea cables began transmitting non-stop data to Pentagon Command. Officially, this was routine training. Unofficially, insiders revealed something much darker. The Navy had activated protocols written decades ago for unknown contact. These weren't science missions. They were contingency plans designed during the Cold War, updated quietly in the 2000s, and buried under layers of secrecy. The directives outlined how the Navy should respond if Earth ever encountered an object that defied natural classification, an object like 3I Atlas. What triggered the activation? Leaked intelligence pointed to two disturbing developments. First, Atlas's trajectory showed small but deliberate course corrections, nudges impossible to explain by solar radiation or outgassing alone. Second, deep-sea listening stations detected unexplained low-frequency hums at the exact times Atlas's emissions spiked. The implication was chilling. Signals were not just directed outward into space. They were somehow resonating with Earth's oceans. This connection between sky and sea pushed the Navy into high alert. Submarines carrying advanced sonar and electronic warfare suites fanned out across the Pacific and Atlantic. Aircraft carriers repositioned as floating command hubs. Even civilian satellite companies reported government interference as certain frequencies were suddenly locked. And behind the official silence, whispers emerged of wargaming scenarios. What if Atlas didn't just pass through? What if it slowed down, or worse, descended? For the first time, the question wasn't academic. Atlas's strange plume-like jet, pointing against the solar wind, looked less like a comet tail and more like controlled propulsion. In underground bunkers, Pentagon planners debated responses, ranging from observation to direct engagement. But one detail from those secret drills stood out. Every scenario included the same phrase, written in stark language: prepare for submersible entry. If Atlas could enter Earth's atmosphere or its oceans, the Navy wanted to be ready. But just as these plans took shape, another revelation arrived, one that would raise the stakes from mystery to outright alarm. The classified discoveries that changed everything. The turning point came not from telescopes, but from a leak inside the Pentagon. A mid-level analyst, speaking under anonymity, described a discovery that terrified even the most seasoned officers. According to him, Atlas wasn't just larger than NASA admitted, it was hollow. Radar returns from the Navy's most advanced sensors revealed inconsistencies, pockets within the object where matter should have been solid. Instead of a dense core, there appeared to be cavities, structured, repeating, and geometric. This wasn't chaos. It was architecture. Engineers who reviewed the data compared it to the ribbed hull of a ship, not the random fractures of a rock. Then came the second revelation. The Navy's hydroacoustic arrays, first built to track Soviet submarines, began registering ultra-low frequency pulses every 11.2 seconds. These pulses matched the rhythm already flagged by NASA in Atlas's infrared emissions. In other words, the same signal was echoing in two places at once, in the vacuum of space and in Earth's ocean. What did it mean? To some, it suggested Atlas wasn't just passing by, it was interfacing. Whether this meant communication, reconnaissance, or something far more invasive, no one could say. But the pattern grew stronger as Atlas neared the inner solar system. When fragments of these findings reached lawmakers, panic hit Washington again. Classified briefings warned that if Atlas continued on its trajectory, its closest approach to Earth would occur within months. The object wasn't on a collision course, but its precision alignment with the orbital plane was impossible to dismiss as chance. Conspiracy forums exploded with wild claims that Atlas was a mothership, that it was here for resource harvesting, or that it was connected to the Black Triangle sightings military pilots had whispered about for decades. Mainstream news outlets cautiously hinted at anomalous behaviors while dismissing alien talk as paranoia. But behind the curtain, the Navy doubled its readiness. Emergency funding surged into classified program. New submarines were ordered to patrol choke points in the Atlantic, and most chillingly, one document surfaced with a headline stamped in red: Atlas Event Tier 1 Preparedness. If true, this wasn't just another cosmic mystery. It was an event category reserved for existential threats. But even that wasn't the final revelation, because what happened next would make even hardened skeptics reconsider everything they thought they knew. The closing crisis, an unanswered question. By late autumn, the situation had shifted from quiet concern to outright urgency. For months, 3I Atlas had been the subject of classified meetings, hushed military movements, and mysterious leaks that slipped past government censors. But as it reached perihelion, the closest point to the sun, everything changed. This was the period of solar conjunction, when Earth lost direct visibility. Telescopes were blinded by solar glare, radio signals scrambled by plasma interference. For weeks, astronomers could do nothing but wait and hope Atlas re-emerged on schedule. But when it finally reappeared, the data sent a chill through every control room in the Western world. Atlas's trajectory was no longer the same. The change was subtle, barely a few degrees, but enough to send predictive models spiraling into chaos. NASA's orbital simulations, the European Space Agency's forecasts, even the Pentagon's own classified software, none could account for what had just happened. The only explanation left on the table was also the most terrifying. Atlas had maneuvered inside US Navy command centers. The mood was electric. The emergency drills they had been quietly rehearsing were no longer what-ifs. Warships redeployed to strategic oceans, submarines were ordered into new patrol depths, and intelligence satellites shifted focus toward a sky that suddenly felt hostile. The Air Force elevated its alert posture. Every action was deliberate, coordinated, yet shrouded in silence. The government's official statement, a bland reassurance that tracking continues as expected. But no one believed it, not after the leaks, not after the unexplained plume that had looked more like propulsion than dust. Public reaction was immediate and volatile. Elon Musk hinted cryptically on social media that SpaceX was preparing launch support for national defense, setting off a firestorm of speculation. Donald Trump, speaking at a rally, accused the Biden administration of hiding the alien truth from the American people. News outlets ran conflicting stories, some mocking the panic, others fueling it with unverified insider tips about emergency White House briefing. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens turned their eyes skyward. Live streams of the night sky racked up millions of views. Chat rooms exploded with rumors of glowing objects near the moon, and conspiracy forums argued over whether Atlas was a probe, a ship, or something even stranger. Religious leaders called it a divine omen. Economists whispered about market instability if panic spread too far. Then came the silence. For 3 consecutive days, the Navy's deep-sea arrays, massive underwater listening posts used to track submarines and seismic events, stopped registering the strange electromagnetic rhythms tied to Atlas. Gone were the pulses, gone were the echoes. Nothing remained but dead quiet. Officials dismissed it as technical maintenance. Analysts weren't so sure. Some argued Atlas had finally moved beyond range. Others whispered a far darker possibility, that Atlas wasn't gone at all, but cloaked, already inside Earth's orbit, hidden in plain sight. And so, the story closes not with clarity, but with dread. A Navy on high alert, a government speaking in half-truths, a public divided between fear, fascination, and disbelief. Because the real question is no longer what Atlas is. It's why now? Why Earth? Why this moment in history, when technology finally allows us to see it, only for it to answer by changing course? The countdown some believe, has already begun. And in that silence, one truth echoes louder than any signal. Whatever 3i Atlas is, it knows we're watching, and it may already be watching back. Thanks for watching another episode. While you are still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more quality content.
You know, folks, I swear that's... You got to be real careful nowadays when you're looking at stuff, because they come up with this stuff that... it looks real. It sounds like a real story in the whole 9 yards. My first thought when we were watching this, I watched about half of it before I prepared to get it ready for you guys to watch. But my first thought was that tonight, right now, is that it was because it kind of went too far in the history of this thing. You know, it was talking about how it had gone past the sun, and then it made a trajectory change. Well, as far as I know, it hasn't happened yet, and it's still on its way toward getting to the other side of the sun. But so I'm gonna submit to you that this was a story, a very believable story, and that this is just a possible look at what could happen in the next few days. Okay, I wouldn't call it an actual report of what's been happening up until a certain point anyway, but let's be careful when it comes to stuff like this, okay? And this has been a lesson for me and for you too. Right, I'm the one that's out there trying to show you guys what's going on, but this doesn't ring like it's an actual fact. It's coming at me like it's a story that a supposition, and he called it an episode too at the end. So let's just take it to be it could be how things are going to play out, but right now we don't know. Okay, it helped my attention. It really did. But let's just set it aside for pondering at a later time, okay? Or for saying later on, see, they knew. They knew what was going on. Anyway, so what I wanted to kind of get at was that in this summary, in this last part, is that we are told that when the Antichrist comes, the Anti-Mashiach, when he comes, that certain criteria has to be met. He has to come back in the clouds. Like you remember the angels when Yeshua departed. It says that the disciples were standing there kind of amazed, and the angels came down, good angels, and said, "Hey, you men of Galilee, don't marvel at this, because this Yeshua that just went up is going to come back the same way in the cloud." And he always said, "The Son of Man will come back in clouds with great glory." So, while that may not be able to be duplicated by the other side, by the satanic side, perhaps they, in this day and age that we live in, where anything can be believed, if it's presented the right way, especially if it's presented like with holograms and kind of like the Matrix. The Matrix is pretty dang believable, isn't it? Because it's tangible. We can touch it. We walk on it. We sleep during it. We wake up. The whole thing is real. And I'm not saying that. I never said that it wasn't, but it's something we've been cast into until the time is right and Yeshua comes back and corrects it. But the criteria is that I think it's quite possible that when the Anti-Mashiach comes back, when he comes, it's going to be in something like with an armada of objects like this, or who knows, maybe that thing is carrying an armada, who knows. But in that he's going to present this to the world as him returning to the world in the clouds with great glory. The clouds will be explained away as the UFOs that came down with the original mothership or whatever. So many of them that it blocked out the sun or whatever. It's not going to be too hard to convince people or something like that. Of course, you'll always have naysayers like us. No, that's not true. Let's look into it. But anyway, and so I'm also convinced that he's going to come back, or come back. I keep saying that he's going to come as a human-alien hybrid. That in a way, Yeshua was a godly human hybrid, meaning that his father was God the Father, and Mary is his mother. So he was all God and all man. Okay, and there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, he carried the DNA markers of we watched a couple of weeks ago. I think it was with it was last week with Ron Wyatt. When they had the blood of Yeshua and they took it to a laboratory and looked at it, they determined that it had 23 chromosomes, all from Mary, and then there was one chromosome, the male chromosome, from Yahweh. And man, that's amazing. It still just blows my mind when I think about that. But anyways, he can come back he can come as a alien human hybrid. And, of course, in that way, kind of like the Nephilim had, they had powers, the Nephilim did back then. Not powers like their fathers, the fallen angels had, but enough to where they could dupe mankind. So see where I'm going with this? That this could be setting things up for the return of the Antichrist. I'm not going to say that again. Sorry. Erase the word return from my vocabulary, Lord. I pray in Yeshua's name for the rest of this show. Amen and amen. Okay, so he's going to pull this off when he comes, not back, but comes. He'll have powers like the sons of God had before the flood, and but at the same time, he's going to have more because there's going to be a point where he becomes embodied or he becomes possessed by Satan. And if you want to throw other things into the mix, all the alien races that they say exist, I think those are all fallen angels too, in different progresses of decay, so to speak, spiritual decay. And because you have the nice looking ones, supposedly the blondes, the Nordics that look just like human beings, and then you have the grays, which are hideous looking, and then the reptilians, which are really hideous looking. So perhaps they're categorized. Their looks are categorizing their either evilness or their what the effect that wickedness has had on them. So I think that's as far as I want to go with that. I want to do a show on that sometime real soon. That whole theory, and see what you think about that. But if what you think about it, let me know tonight too. Okay, send me a letter or something. You can do that through Rumble. I'm sure other people have, and I'd like to know your thoughts on it. Or some of you have had the same thought. That'd be really neat. Confirmation is always welcome here. So this thing is acting and behaving very strangely, more like something that is either remote controlled or being controlled from inside. And but at the off chance, it could just be a freak comet. It's. But I tend to think that it's more than that. And that it's some kind of alien ship. When I mean aliens, I mean fallen angels. That they're coming back in this thing, or if there's anybody in there, looking like aliens, and just to deceive people. And it's going to be a whole thing that they're back too. Oh, we've come back. We were here before the flood, and but we've come back to help humankind. The story will just be a fantastic one when it comes out. They'll have an explanation for everything, but it'll be a very hollow explanation that you and I could pick apart using even the simplest of scriptures. So, anyway, folks, I'm going to get going here. I hope that maybe we've made some answers, or maybe I've sparked even more questions that will never get answered. So, that having been said, I'm going to go, and I'll be back on Thursday with another subject. My prayer is that you will just have a wonderful Wednesday, and that you would just that you would be blessed by Yahweh in so many ways tomorrow, that you won't be able to contain your laughter and your joy. Okay? So, and that having been said, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to rise upon you and be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out and your coming in, your rising up and your lying down. And may he grant you the peace that passes all understanding. And really, folks, let's just equip ourselves so that when something happens like I propose tonight, might happen, that we're ready for it. Okay? Let's go into this with a warrior attitude and not a victim attitude. Okay? We're not victims. We're with Yeshua, and he's a victor. And if he won, we're winning. Okay? That having been said, I'm going to get out of here. Hey, talk to you soon, and best wishes, adios, and arrivederci. Bye now, folks.